Okay, I've got the overlock done. I've gone up the back of each side, and I've done some interlocking on my ribbing to go around the neck. I've done the whole one side, and I didn't get too much stretch. A little bit, but not bad. Like you can tell that this did stretch a little bit because it would hang straight if it didn't. But it's okay. It's all right. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. This is called Wonder Web. It's from Pellon. It's fusible web. But basically what that does is you iron your two pieces together, and that will fuse them together. Okay, it looks like this. It looks like webbing. You see that? This looks like web. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut myself a couple strips of this, and the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to turn down both sides of my back, and this will help it stay put until I can get the neckline sewed on, and it'll also keep it stayed put until I can sew some Velcro on the back. Also, this is good to use too underneath when you're putting in your buttonholes, because that will keep your fabric stabilized till you're ready to use it. But you got to be careful with it, because all it does is touch your iron and it melts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my back two pieces and I'm going to turn them down about maybe ½ an inch on each side for the back. That's about right. Okay, so go ahead and put your webbing in there. Let me see if you can see what I'm doing. Put your webbing in there, and then go to the top. You don't have to worry too much about the bottom, because you're going to leave the bottom a little bit open anyway, because you're going to have to put your hem in. But you can pull this apart just like you can anything else. Even the interfacing that pulls right off, this pulls right off too if you put too much on. It's not, you know, it's not, they say it's supposed to be permanent, but it doesn't. It really, you can really remove it easily. Okay, that doesn't want to stay for me, so let me go ahead and get started with a little piece here. Let me just cut a small piece here and go to the top and get that in there. If it doesn't want to stay with you while you turn, just use a few pins. Just use a pin to hold it in place until you can get it started. Okay. Alright, so let me get my iron and iron that down. Because this fabric is so thick, it takes a while for that heat to get through there. But that looks like it's held pretty good. Let me turn it upside down and iron the other side. Make sure your iron doesn't touch any of that. If it does get on your iron, it's not the end of the world. It'll just come right off. You can just wipe it right off. Let me try it again. Maybe my iron's not hot enough, or not long enough on there. The reason we're turning this in is because we don't want to have to do it later, because we want to catch that into the, once we put the back in, we're catching that turn in underneath the, can you see that? We're catching that turn in underneath the ribbing at the top of the neck. Okay, so let me put another piece in. Okay, we can remove these little ones on the bottom too, because we know automatically now what's the inside and the outside. Okay, so there's one down. Let me do the other side. I've already done this blouse. This is like the 4th time already, 3rd or 4th time. So I know that you have to stabilize that neckline. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to. Well, unless you have a really fancy machine, a good machine, it's just almost impossible to get that neckline to not stretch on you while you're sewing it. Especially when I did that old fabric that I got out of that thrift store, that Baby Lulu outfit. That thing had so much stretch in it, there was just absolutely no way I could have possibly have sewn that neckline without stabilizing it. That was the only way I could possibly do it. I don't know if you've seen, here's that neckline I'm talking about. See how thin this knit is? Because it's just so old. It was so old that it just stretched like crazy. You see the stretch in that? If I wouldn't have stabilized the neck, well actually I did sew this. Took me an hour to take it out. It stretched on me like this when I sewed the neckline. It looked terrible. So I had to take it all out, and then I had to put the interfacing on here, and I stabilized it. In fact, on this fabric, because it was so old, I stabilized the bottom of the neckline and the top of the neckline before I sewed it. Otherwise, there's no way I could have possibly got that rib knitting across there. It even stretched a little bit. You can't tell much, but there is a little bit of a stretch in here from the sewing on there. But it was... My husband's hammering. Okay, let me finish this up so we can get going on this. I don't know what he's doing. Sorry about that. I think he's almost done. Okay, let me put one more piece on here, and then we will go to the neckline. Okay, close enough. Okay, good enough for now. Okay, let me take this off. Okay, so we've got that stabilized, that side stabilized on the back. Okay, and we've got the other side stabilized. Okay, so it's ready to get, the neckline is ready to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some more of my lightweight interfacing, and I cut it out in the shape of the neckline, but I'm going to go ahead and put that underneath where my stitching line is going to be. I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch when I sew the ribbing on, so I'm going to put this down lower just to stabilize that fabric so it will not stretch. Am I on the sticky side? Yeah, I was on the wrong side, I think. Yeah, here's the other side. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, so I'm below the 1/4 inch seam line. Okay, so I got that part stabilized, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more. And I'm going to put a couple pieces on the back also. You know, you might, like I said, you might think this is a waste of time. Well, think about how much time it will take you to have to remove everything and try again. It's just not worth the aggravation. Not to me, anyway. So, you know, if you have a good machine and you can sew on knits with no problem, that's great, but unfortunately I don't. Okay, so I'm going to take one of these other pieces here, and I'm going to, do I have any more anywhere? Yeah, let me put myself another piece here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this across my sleeves so I can hold my sleeves down, and I don't have to worry about having any needles in there, pins in there holding that seam open. So I am going to let the interfacing do it for me. Okay, there's that one. I don't know if it's going to hold well or not, but we will see. Get these out of the way. Definitely that webbing. Okay, I'm going to put that there. Hold that open for me. Okay, so what I need now is just a couple pieces for the back neckline, and we will be ready to sew. So here's one, and here is two. So let me put that on. Oops, oh, I did it wrong side of the interfacing. Try it over here. Okay, and then one last but not least. Okay, so just that little bit of help is all I'm going to need to get that neckline put on. Let me get that away from the iron. Now I don't have an iron to have to clean up later. Okay, so I've got my interfacing ironed on. So now I'm at the point where I'm going to sew my neckline. Okay, so I've got that, and this. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so back to my knit stitch, and go back to my regular, boy, noisy today, my regular pressure foot. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take my ribbing and I'm going to extend it beyond the neckline, so right sides together. Let me see what you're seeing. Okay, so let me go up a little bit better. Okay. Alright, so right sides together, put your overlock stitches down. Give yourself a little tail because you're going to need a little bit to catch your feed dogs, and you're going to sew that and turn it under anyway, so you're going to have to give yourself a tail. You can give yourself a bigger tail, that way it'll be easier to catch the feed dogs. So put your interfacing on the bottom and sew from the top. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that on, and we are going to start sewing. We're not going to pin anything down except that first one to get us going. And let's get started. Okay, let's remove that one pin we have. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it as I go along on the neckline. I'm going to line it up with my neckline as I sew. I'm also going to take a pin and I'm going to make sure that that ribbing stays up, doesn't get pulled at all. Okay, let me see if you can see what I'm seeing. Let me see here. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so there's the ribbing, the neck ribbing, and I am just sewing right along. When you're dealing with knits, it's best if you go slow. Okay, so lift up your foot, move your neckline around, bring over your ribbing, and just keep sewing. Okay, let's line up our neckline for it. lift up, move your neckline around, go down, and sew. Okay, lift up, move it around, set it down, make sure it's lined up, and sew some more. Okay, same thing, move it, down, sew. Up, move it around, line it up, don't stretch it, set it down, sew. Okay, don't stretch. Okay, of course you're going to go a lot faster than I am. I'm just trying to make sure that the camera's in view. Okay, down, line it up. Okay, now we're going to just go ahead and sew right off of the ribbing. Okay, we are done. Okay, so we got the rib neck put on. Let's cut our threads. Okay, I think we can go all the way to the edge. I must not have started in. Okay, I didn't start on the fabric. I started inland, or in, so let me go ahead and pick that back up. I don't know what I was thinking, but it didn't sew. And we want that sewn all the way to the end. So I wasn't where I should have been. Okay, so let's go sew it again. Okay, we are off. Okay. So now at this point we can go ahead and let's not remove this yet, because then we still want some stabilizing as we turn around. Okay, let's go ahead and take it off now. You could do it either way. We really don't need that extra stabilizing when we do the rib part. So let's remove it all. The hotter your iron is, the harder it is to take off of your fabric. So you might want to stick with a lighter heated iron. I used the hotter iron so it would keep these sleeves down better, but it might have been a little too hot. Okay, I got a little piece caught in that thread. Okay, alright, so we got that done. So let's look at the neckline. Too many threads. Okay, so we've just sewn that neckline on, and we didn't get any stretch. You see how that stabilizer stabilized it, so we were able to do that. Like the first time I did this one here, it was stretched out like this. It was just terrible. It was like twice as big as it should have been. So you don't want that. So that's what that interfacing does. It helps stabilize the fabric for you. So let's go ahead and give ourselves about, right now we'll just go about 3/4 of an inch, but we're going to cut that down anyway when we get to it. Okay, so here's our neckline. Okay, so what we're going to do at this point now is we're going to take some pins, and because you're knit, you really don't have to make any notches or anything on here. You can if you want to. You can go ahead and cut your seams down, but you really don't have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this, and I'm going to pull it pretty good, and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to just pin it down. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way around. That was why we did that overlock stitch there, because we're not going to, that's how we finish the whole thing. So we're going to try and see how the seam is here. We're going to pull it, and we're going to line it up with that seam on the front. What we're going to do on this one is we're going to sew on the front, because if we make a mistake on the back, you're not going to see it, but at least when you're sewing from the front edge, you'll be able to look and make sure that all of your turn unders and your sewing is in the same location, so it looks nice. So let me go ahead and put a couple more pins in here. And I will show you what we're going to do when we're at the edges. Okay, so let me put one here. Okay, so we're going to cut off, on this edge we want to cut off enough so that we can tuck it under. So I would say a little bit, let's go a little bit higher than 1/4 of an inch. So in this case there's a couple of ribbings here, so I'm just going to cut those two where those two ribbings are. See that? Okay, so this time when I turn it up and over, I am going to go here, I'm going to tuck. See how I tuck that in? And then I'm going to push this down on top. So when you tuck, you might want to try and tuck it a little bit so that when you do turn it and fold it down and put a pin in it, it looks nice. Okay, so it's here at the corners where you might want to think about trimming some of your seams, because you do have all that fabric. So what you want to do is take your scissors. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, take your scissors and trim a little bit trim it out. Okay, don't cut your seams all the way through. Trim a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again. So turn, tuck, and it's not so thick as it was before. Okay, so let's put another pin here. Okay, so see what it looks like now on the front. We are going to sew from here all the way down, and we're going to keep looking at our turn unders, and we can even move our pins to the front just so we want to line that up so it looks really nice, because it's the front that's going to show, not the back. So when you do your turn and tuck, make sure that you are tucking all that fabric in a uniform all the way around the neckline. So you can always lift up your pins and get that uniform. Okay, so just keep moving it around. Okay, so it looks really nice. The sleeves are done exactly the same way, only there's no turn and tuck on the sleeves because you're going to tuck those in the seam. Okay, so let's give ourselves 1, 2, 2.5 maybe. ribbons on this one. Let's trim our inside down a little bit so it's not such a bulky edging. And this one again. Okay, so here we're going to do a push up, a tuck, and then a turn under. And pin it. Okay, so there we go. We are ready to sew, but I think I'm going to have to do this in another part. So I think I'm already too long on this video. Let me go ahead and stop here and line up all my, make sure that my needles are all exactly where, pins are exactly where I want them to be. I have a nice uniform edge all the way down, and then when we come back we'll sew that. Okay?